Hello! Welcome back to the Bardic Quest talk show. I'm here. My name is Wayne, with Annina and Callum, and today we're going to be talking about metagaming. That shock horror topic that so many opinionated people? Opinions have opinions of. Opinions? People have opinions of. Oh my goodness, drink some tea, Wayne. So, we should probably touch on the fact that, just D&D news, before we get into that, Ravenloft Horrors Within is now in public release, so if you have pre-ordered it on D&D Beyond and you are not a subscriber, you should have access to that now, and hopefully, if you pre-ordered it from your friendly local game store, you should be able to have it arrive at your house, hopefully, or go and collect it, or indeed, go buy it yourself. I know we touched on it, but I am hearing mixed things. Some people are quite mad, actually, about Horrors Within, because of how much of a reprint it is. And actually, I've seen bits of it that are like paragraph for paragraph, like copy and paste jobs from Van Richter's Guide to Ravenloft. However, some of the stuff that is new is pretty damn cool. So we should. I do want us to do an episode on it. Once I have a physical copy, because I can't. I think I said this last week. I just can't sit in front of a screen and read a D&D book. I need a physical book. I'm showing my age, I think, but I need my cup of tea, a comfy chair, and sit and flick through the book. But yes, once I've got a copy, which I'm still waiting on my friendly local game store to have them in stock. But yes, once that arrives, we'll do an episode and maybe take an overview. But really, aside from that, there's not really much in the way of D&D news, other than potentially something which happened on another actual play show recently, which may very well come up in this conversation that we're going to have on metagaming today. So, how to frame this, I guess? Well, I suppose we should probably, first of all, take a slightly academic approach on this and just define what we're talking about when we talk about metagaming specifically, I think. Because there are different views on what metagaming is and what metagaming isn't, I suppose. So, Annina, in your view, what is metagaming?
Throw me in the deep end, why don't you?
Yeah, I thought I would.
Thanks, I've been away.
Well, Oxford Dictionary defines...
It is, I would class it as talking about the game instead of immersive sort of role play in the game. So talking about what could we do from the outside.
Sure.
Which I don't think it's something, I'm not fully against it, because in some moments you do need to metagame.
Sure.
But I'm definitely far more of a immersive storyteller. I would rather roleplay as the character coming up with what's the big heist plan in character than sit around as people playing the game coming up with you're going to pull that move and you're going to do this and you're going to do that. Bam, 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 bam. That's how I've seen it work a lot. I've got definite situations where I hate it, and I do think it really affects the game in a negative way. But because it's such a broad, metagaming is such a broad thing, you're never going to not have any metagaming. Because technically, a joke about the game you're playing as the player is metagaming. If we're going to be pedantic, that is literally metagaming.
Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose there are two elements to a role-playing game. There's the role-playing, and then there's the game. And you have to have both for it to be a role-playing game and not just make-believe or just playing a game. So you have to have metagaming to some degree. And I think we should probably be upfront about the fact that if you're new to this channel, we are all theatre kids, as the term is oft used. We are.
But kid is being used more loosely.
My
grey hairs are starting to. I'm as much a kid as Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid, is a kid these days. But we're all theatre kids. We're trained actors. I know me and you, Callum, certainly. I can't speak for when you started acting, Annina, but I know me and Callum been acting since we were. Oh, right, okay, well, yeah, so we've all grown up in theatre even when we were kids. And I was in theatre before I was playing D&D, and I was playing D&D from the age of 12, 13. But I can also attest to the fact that I have also been gaming generally for longer than I was also in theatre. So, and I think you're the same as well. I know that when we met, you were a big gamer. I think we've got a fairly balanced view on this, but obviously we are biased towards narrative storytelling because we chose to pursue that as our careers, narrative storytelling. And we should probably be upfront. There is definitely going to be a bias here in this conversation.
There's 3 lovies at the table.
Yeah, 3 lovies.
But I think what you're saying about the fact that we're quite avid gamers as well, and I mean I as well as D&D, I love a board game.
Same.
I love a tactical
board
board game where you are thinking about like what's the best move to make and that. So I do also feel the pull and the seduction of metagaming to whether it's just that you're wanting to build your character in as good a way so that this wonderful character that you enjoy role playing stays alive and does good things.
Right.
But I suppose there's layers, isn't it? There's levels to metagaming. You've got the sort of the quintessential. It's not about having knowledge that your character doesn't have. It's about using it.
Yeah.
Whether it be that you're playing a level 1 person that's never left the farm, and you come across a troll, and you're like, have we got anything that does fire damage?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? You've got little things where you might
nothing
know
annoys me more.
or whether, and you've got stuff that you'll do in the back of your head that you can't really help with. Like, for example, especially if you're a DM as well, and you've played a lot of stuff. If someone introduces a creature and you're going, oh, that's a banshee, or that sounds like it's a ghoul, you might know some stuff about their stat blocks. It might even just come down to roughly how many hit points they've got, or they've got resistance to a certain damage, and that's where it becomes less a thing of just don't metagame, because it's quite hard sometimes to be like
100%.
If I'm fighting a ghost and I'm playing someone that's got Toll the Dead, and I, as a player, know it's not going to do any damage to them because they're immune to necrotic damage, or certain things like this. I have to make that kind of. It makes the character decision a bit more difficult in my head because I don't want to waste a turn. But you have to have that decision then in your head in what's more important. I think you've got forgivable meta kind of things where you're just trying to avoid doing suboptimal things. Then you've got the whole, I'm metagaming that is on the other end, which is just going into cheating, which is like looking up stat blocks. It's like that. Actively looking for information outside of the game for it, which I think we don't need to spend much time on. I think we can all agree that you'll suck if you do that.
Yeah.
Or literally reading. I know someone who had bought a campaign book.
Oh God! Oh God!
If I was that DM at that point, I would, because I would be this petty, I would homebrew all of them just enough. So they were different.
But this is the problem, though. This is why it's bad etiquette to read an adventure that you're going to play in and not be upfront with, because you can't unlearn what you already know. You may very well play in a game that you've actually read the book for. You had no intention of necessarily playing at this table. It's just, we're going to be in this game. I think it's good etiquette to be like, hey DM, full disclosure, I have played this, I read it, I know it. So full disclosure. What's not good is when it is basically cheating if you are reading the book and not disclosing to the DM that you know various things. You are basically cheating at the game at that point.
It's crazy because it's not a game that you aim to win.
Well, I was having this conversation the other day. You can't
this mentality from gaming of
got
to win, got to be.
Because you're not going to get a ding noise with fireworks on the screen. Do you know what I mean? That's not really
achievement unlocked.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because I mean, I've been at a table where I've been DMing, and the first time a player makes a logical leap to something, and you're like, I'm not going to ask you to show your work because I don't want to offend you, But when that happens 3 or 4 times, and it's okay, you have no basis of evidence of this, of what you're claiming. These are all very accurate hunches that you're quite blatantly telling the whole party, I think this. We should pursue this line of inquiry. It's you have not disclosed that you've read this adventure, but you're trying to display yourself as being clever, but actually, sadly, the most unclever thing you're doing is trying to dupe the DM into thinking that you haven't read the adventure, because the thing is the DM's job is to drip feed information, and they know what information they have drip fed you. They know it intimately. And when you start making logical leaps because you've read the campaign book, where it's like you have had no information to lead you in that direction, particularly if the DM actually has a different plan for the narrative. Because, guys, if you play at a table, you do know that the DM has the right, the prerogative, in fact, to change anything they want. Anything at all.
That's one of the that goes into this sort of people that want to play within the sort of the rigidity of everything versus people that are wanting to more have the rules there when they're absolutely needed.
The thing is,
on the
this
two
is
ends
the
of the
wrong
spectrum.
game to play rigidly. That's what I
It
believe.
is.
This is literally the
It
wrong
is.
game. At that point, it's a video game you won.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly. Go and play Baldur's Gate.
That's Baldur's Gate. That's Skyrim. That is what you.
Ironically, though, Baldur's Gate is far less rigid, I found, than 5th edition. Actually, if you try and run 5e rules as written, that is. But
Yeah.
But see what I mean? Like,
But I mean,
everything's
in terms of
consistent.
things can't be hand waved.
yes, exactly.
You know, a video game's not gonna go. Oh, go on then.
Right, it's true.
Do you know what I mean?
But
it's
I
not.
mean, I think generally, I do miss the days of pre-social media more than pre-internet, because the internet is so mature now that all of D&D is on the internet for anybody to look up at any time.
Oh yeah.
And I remember the 3rd edition days where it was considered bad etiquette for a player to read the monster manual at all.
Yeah.
It was just bad etiquette. You don't read them.
No.
Whereas now it's like people have got stat blocks memorized and this, that, and the other. And I struggle with that because I'm like, I want to be able to surprise you with the monsters that I'm throwing at you. And if the only way I can surprise you is through third-party content, which is probably not as robustly play-tested, a lot of it, or to homebrew stuff myself, it's like, you are kind of making the DM's job a little bit harder. It's not stuff that I have a problem with necessarily doing, because it's part of the job. But I want to be able to not have to do that every time I build an encounter, to be able to surprise you.
Sometimes I want my troll to be a classic troll.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
Right,
mean?
exactly. I don't want to have to be like a troll
Actually,
that's...
it resists. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't understand where the fun is as a player to do that. That's what I struggle with. I'm like,
that's the thing is that I don't think it's about fun. I think it's about misinterpreting an instinct. And I think the problem is that they're defining success incorrectly.
I think I would be inclined to agree.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah, so you've got that in the same way that you've got someone, let's say, playing another Wizards of the Coast product, Magic the Gathering. Now, obviously, what I'm about to talk about is literally cheating, so it is different. But if someone has that thing of they accidentally pick up 2 cards and then they don't put one back, or they don't declare it, that instinct thing of this gives you an edge, and that doesn't come from a place of I'm wanting to have fun playing the game.
Right.
It comes from this gives me an edge, and this will make me succeed, and I will get a nice feeling from succeeding.
Because
Well, that's the thing.
get that feeling from doing that, so I'm there going, well,
Right.
what's the point? I just get
But that's it. Different people are wired differently,
yeah.
and it's about resisting any urge that you have for that.
Well, I
because
suppose it's what
the
your
aim of the game is to have fun with it.
Exactly what I was about to say. It all depends on what you're optimizing for. Because if you're optimizing to have fun, I would posit that actually the better thing to do would be to have a less optimal character mathematically.
Yeah.
Because I think that is
Massive.
more fun,
It is more fun.
for my taste at least. If you're optimizing to succeed, that's a completely different beast entirely. And part of the problem, I think, actually, particularly as 5th edition is concerned, that I come up against all the time as a DM, running public games and running games for people that may not necessarily have the same taste as me in D&D, because these are public games. The thing I come up against a lot with 5th edition is the bounded accuracy is so tight that all it takes is mild optimization to suddenly make the maths of the game so out of whack that they're almost guaranteed to succeed.
That's true.
And that's when, to me, the game becomes least fun.
Yeah.
Because then it's, well, there is nothing that makes my stomach sink more than when I ask for a check that is a high DC. I'm talking 20, 25 by what's his definitions, hard or even very hard, and a character says, oh, well, I'm guaranteed to succeed at that roll because of various features. Nothing makes my heart sink more than that, because it's like, we have optimized the fun out of this, because now you have a guarantee of success.
Then why roll a dice at that point? Is what I'm asking.
I have
why would you roll?
It's one of the reasons there's certain, this isn't metagaming, this is just certain, like you say, certain builds. I don't particularly care for the Grave Cleric, because he more or less removes death, the threat of death from the game.
Right.
I have learned firsthand, though I love the player dearly, and they're an excellent. From their first ever D&D session to now, they're a wonderful, immersive, role-play heavy D&D player. They are playing an Eloquence Bard who can't roll less than a 15 on a persuasion check. It has removed an element of roleplay from the game in terms of.
At that point, they're Kilgrave from
right.
Jessica Jones.
Right.
Yeah.
And bards are actually one of the character classes that I see this problem with the most, actually.
Skill monkey stuff,
particularly charisma-based.
Because they have Jack of all trades as well as a feature.
Yeah.
Granted, to be fair, 5.5 does put a little bit more guardrails against it than 2014 version of 5e did, in that there are two axes now in social mechanics, rules as written, versus one. It used to be friendly, indifferent, hostile, and that was it. Now it's friendly, indifferent, hostile on one axis, but then the other is willing, unwilling, or potentially. And basically, you as the DM can define, with no written, basically in the moment, are they willing to do it? Are they unwilling to do it? If they're willing, they're going to succeed. If they're unwilling, they're going to fail. It's only if it's in the middle that the roll is determined. And then friendly gives you advantage, hostile gives you disadvantage.
I suppose you've got the thing of, because we're going into the realms of optimization now,
Sure.
but there are crossovers in terms of, so I'd say optimization outside the game in terms of you building your character. That's another discussion. I know Wayne has lots of thoughts on mechanical, but then optimization within the game, for example, using knowledge from that your character doesn't have in order to optimize your tactics. When your country bumpkin barbarian suddenly becomes a tactical genius with full knowledge of how many hit points each creature probably has left.
I do think this understanding what your character knows and what you as the player know is more difficult to people who are not performers. That is more difficult, so I will say that straight away. So I see this in my home group, where I'm the only sort of pro performer. Everyone else has normal day jobs, and we role play a lot, but there has to be like, but you know that, but does your character know that?
It's also a big grey area because we don't have a mechanic or stat or skill. We have history, but history is so general that, yes, it's up to the DM to be like, oh, well, you're from that region, so let's give you advantage on a history check to see if you would know kind of stuff. But there is nothing about players or character. You have certain things, like a ranger has an ability where they can learn about resistances, all that kind of thing. But there isn't anything rules as written in place for a player to be able to be like, my character would know about this sort of stuff, because it's quite hard to quantify.
Yeah, I think
as
when you're playing something like Forgotten Realms, whatever, there's so much lore as well that you have to just decide how much your character could know. I usually roll for it. And I mean, with my bardic works, because I have a highly educated bard who's from a privileged background, I roll for his. I ask, would I know this? I roll for it. Now it's very clear they paid absolutely no attention to any of their tutors, which is fun because they are, you know, and they're very much charm people to get what they want. So it very much works with the character. But I roll for it rather than, oh yeah, well, I'm highly educated, so I would just know.
That's how I handle character versus player knowledge a lot as well. And actually, my players are pretty well trained at my tables. that they will say, I know this. Does my character know this? What check do you want to determine that? Yeah. And they're very well trained with that. That comes up all the time. And I respect players that ask that question to me, as opposed to the others, which is like it is. You brought it up earlier. It is my absolute pet peeve, particularly with trolls, when a troll shows up and everybody's kill it with fire, and it's boy, what was the point? Yeah. What was the point?
Well, I suppose this is where we also go into like meta tactics,
right?
Because one of the rules that I or something I encourage at my table, because I deal with a lot of new players as well. So I don't want to come down too hard on them, because I like that I want to reward any sort of interaction with the game, particularly interaction with each other. But when the combat begins and suddenly it all draws to a halt because there is a council committee going on about what should be done on this turn and this turn, completely halting the game. That is a form of meta, because you've literally paused the game to discuss what you're gonna do. That is
grating when it's
same goes for
every time.
The same goes, I think, for the coaching.
Yeah.
I think to a degree, although if you can justify it, I usually end up punishing it somehow, or change the environment somehow. When they're about to go into a combat and they decide what they're going to do before they go into that room. If you're doing that in character, fine. Doesn't mean that stuff isn't happening on the other side of that door while you're deciding. You better be talking quietly. But then within combat, because I often find because I've discouraged people from talking above the table during combat, because this isn't Warhammer. This isn't a tactical battle game. You're in the moment, as it were. They'll often say, "Oh, well, can I shout something, even if it's not their turn?" Or, "Oh, can I shout something?" I say, as long as you understand that this entire turn, this entire round is 6 seconds.
Yeah.
You can't. That is not long enough to have a conversation about something. By all means, on your turn or something. Or I always say, if it's on your turn, or if someone has shouted something to you and you're responding, fine. Kind of like a free reaction, as it were.
It's your witty repartee.
If you want to talk tactic, if you want,
exactly,
yeah. If you want to talk tactically in character at the table, great. Love that.
I mean,
as long as it's knowledge that your characters would have.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, for example, shouting to kill it with fire vibes. But combat takes long enough anyway.
Yeah.
Trust in your character's instincts. And trust that the DM has created a balanced encounter for you to be able to sit and enjoy, rather than it be rather than it being like your video game on extreme hard mode, and you're having to really think about every single move that you're going to make. Like someone that tries to play XCOM without losing a single play. I struggle to play XCOM for that reason. I'm there going, oh no, I get choice paralysis. I'm like, no, I'll go. Okay, maybe. Do I go back to an old save? I genuinely struggle.
Yeah.
I had to push through that with Baldur's Gate.
Sure.
It's too tempting to go backwards, and you can't do that in D&D.
Yeah.
So
It's done.
You've just got to go through and be willing to fail.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's part of the draw into metagaming, isn't it? Is about, I mean, obviously nobody wants to fail. But there are some players at some of my tables that are far more willing to fail than others. Yeah. And some players that get actually quite a lot of enjoyment out of failing. And that's not to say that one's playstyle is more appropriate than the other. But I think where this conversation falls down ultimately, and where we settle in, I think, at all times, is making sure that everybody at the table is singing from the same hymn sheet. With regard to how much metagaming is too much and how much metagaming is perfectly acceptable. One very specific example I have at my table, which takes a lot of getting used to for people, because I don't think people rule things like this, is Counterspell. I will never... Well, I say never. I try not to. My rule is never, but sometimes I make a mistake because I'm only human. But I will try to never declare what spell a NPC is casting. I will always say they're going to start casting a spell, and I'll give it a beat or two, and that the spellcasters know that is their opportunity to go, I counterspell.
I like that.
Because rules as written, you're not supposed to know what spell they're casting.
Well, you don't cast it as you see the fireball fly from their hands. You counterspell it as you see them
raise their hand.
Right, and that really weakens counterspell to a much more sensible level. Because at that point, the player is going, okay, is this going to be a strong spell, or are they going for something? Now, thankfully, I have a Foundry on my side, because I run all my games online. I've already cast the spell at this point, so I'm not changing the spell. You could cheat as a DM and be like, as they were going to counterspell, it was only a cantrip, but that's not in the spirit of the game anyway, let's be honest. That is cheating on the DM side, for sure. But let's assume everybody's acting in good faith here. It means then that, because if you look at rules as written, I think it's in Xanathar's Guide to Everything, it is actually what would now be a study action to work out what spell has been cast. Which means you can't do that with Counterspell, because Counterspell would be a reaction anyway. Unless so it's one of those very specific things that I do to counter that kind of meta knowledge at the table of, they're going to be casting their really powerful spell, so now I'm going to use my counterspell. Which also, even from a kind of narrative standpoint, doesn't really make much sense.
No.
That all of this chaos is going on around you, somebody's doing an incantation, and you're suddenly like, aha, that's a force cage, stop it now! Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Oh, there's more smoke coming out their fingers now. That's actually really nice.
I suppose you could be sort of in, let's say it's fireball is the thing that's getting chucked around. The second time they cast it, maybe you just use the same descriptive language of how they're casting it, and see if they pick up on, hang on, this sounds a lot like the thing that just took the bard out.
For sure. For sure. You could certainly do that. And I probably would do that.
And we like that because it's all role play.
Exactly. And it's about taking that and this is the other thing, and this is where I try and coach my players, is it's not about the number on your character sheet. It is about what that number says about the situation, about your character's situation. We've got a video on the YouTube channel where I actually break down armor class and what those numbers actually mean, and how you can use those numbers to guide the narrative that you're telling. So let's say somebody's wearing leather armor and they've got an armor class of 12 or 13 or whatever. Pretty much anything below a 10, they've just dodged. Yeah. It's not even made contact, they've just dodged. Sort of a 11 or 12, or maybe a 10 or 11, will actually be, it's contact, but the armor's taken the hit, and they've not actually pierced the armor. And then anything above that is a full-blown hit. And you can use those numbers as a DM to try and drop hints to your players of, these are the numbers that you're aiming for. Like, but also, likewise, as another example, if they're in plate armor, it doesn't really matter what they roll. It's just bouncing off the armor, because they ain't dodging shit in that stuff. It's just bouncing off. And that is another way that you can really try and hammer home to the players the narrative that's going on, rather than just you hit, or you missed, or whatever. And those sorts of things, I think, really help to immerse players into that kind of translating numbers into narrative. And the more you can do that, the more you can coach your players to do that as a DM, I think the easier you'll find.
I think that's a good answer to as well. One of the less controversial types of metagaming, one of the lighter forms.
Okay.
Which is let's say, I'm going to attack this creature. You say, okay, roll, and they go 14. They go, I'm afraid that doesn't quite hit, and the person goes 14. Okay, 14.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then a 16 hits, and they go, right, okay, so a 60. It's either 15 or a 16.
Mm-hmm.
There is, and you can find a narrative reason why you would notice that kind of thing, but then also within the game you don't see dice numbers and things like
right.
that. So
yeah.
But I understand that aspect of things in the same way that, and even more so with, say, someone that does fire damage to a creature, or someone does bludgeoning damage, and they say, it doesn't do as much damage as it's half. They go, right, okay, I would probably have picked up that. Even watching somebody else swing, that didn't quite do the. So you've got these things where you can't, you're not expected to just blindly ignore, and just become a tactical dolt.
You're right.
To it. Or for example, I've had ones where I describe a creature as bloodied. Mm-hmm. And I've had a player announce at the table, that means that at most they've got 37 hit points left. Because they've been tracking every single bit of damage that's been done to that creature, and they've turned it into a maths game.
Look, there's nothing wrong necessarily with doing that, but
yeah, it's just that
again, I feel that these are in terms of these are in the purgatory, because these come down to style of play.
Yeah. I mean, if you write down in your own notes, I think it's a 15 or 16, fair enough. Like, the armor class is 15 or 16. That's not disruptive. But announcing it to the table, I can literally feel joy being drained from me. Again, I agree. It's in purgatory. It's like, it's not.
That would definitely annoy me at my table if somebody was doing
the
that.
fun is leaving.
I would quite like to, as a DM, try and do, as an experiment with a table, be as vague as possible for one session with things. So even not answering the question.
I've tried it doesn't go down well.
No, you get this question you'll get a lot, particularly if someone's got something like Toll the Dead or something like that, where it's their turn, they go, which one of these guys have taken damage?
Yeah.
And you be, well, were you paying attention?
Yeah, I have.
Which of these characters has your character seen take damage? Which of these characters, if they're not bloodied, then they're probably not showing a huge sign of being.
I have a module on my Foundry which does what I would do at the table, but actually it takes the pressure off of me without people don't have to ask the question, basically.
Yeah.
But basically, when you hover over a token, it will tell you whether they are unharmed, barely injured, bloodied, or near death. So and that's all because I'm like, that's enough that you could, as a character, have a cursory glance across the battlefield and be like, this guy's fucked. Yeah. Kill him. But all that is thresholds of damage.
Yeah, exactly. And thresholds, I think, is if it is something that your character could know or observe. I don't consider it better.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, if it's like their jaws hanging off, probably not. Probably don't need to do that much effort to finish them off.
But
yeah. And I always another thing that I do try to do, which comes from playing more theatre of the mind, to be honest, than it is from anything else, is when it comes to a player's turn, I'll usually try and give a 1 or 2 sentence recap of what they can see, what's just happened, to prompt them to think in those terms when they're looking at the battlefield. And I find that does quite a lot of the heavy lifting, so that I'm laying my expectations to the player of, here's what your character knows.
It grounds them into the character as well and makes them think the things like emotion. How's this affecting them? Things that aren't coming out onto the tactical battle map.
Because it is different how we play, because everything's theatre of the mind versus your grid, your minis.
Yeah.
And yeah. So yeah, I didn't realise that up until now, but that really helps me going, okay, what you have seen is that guy went over there, that guy just hit you, no idea where the third one is.
Right. Yeah.
Because, yeah.
And I do that even if I'm running on a grid.
Yeah.
Because I think it does really help ground, because it's it's the thought process that I go through when I'm running my monsters. Because I'll normally have an idea of who I, on a meta level, want them to attack.
Yeah.
But more often than not, I'm going, well, this guy over here has just hit this monster for a shit ton of damage. Yeah. Screw the tactics right now. He's going for this guy. Unless that character or that monster is of high intelligence. At which point I go, actually, he's not going to be goaded. He's going for tactical mastery. Yeah. And again, it goes back to those things of translating those numbers. And I think that's a particular one, is character intelligence on the battlefield. Yes. Like, if you have an 8 intelligence fighter on the field, but they seem to be a tactical master, something's gone wrong. Yeah. In my view. Because also, it's for me, again, when I'm running monsters, if it's a low intelligence monster, I'll almost never have them disengage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They will just...
Unless they're running away.
Yeah. But even if they're running away, if they're a low intelligence monster, I'll almost never have them disengage. Like, they'll take...
disengage, I see what you mean.
Yeah, they'll take the opportunity attack.
Yeah.
Because they're just not tactically smart. They're like, get the fuck out, go. And things like that, but... And I think if you're getting into the character properly, and this again goes back to, what are we optimizing for? Are we optimizing for success, or are we optimizing for fun? Because if you're optimizing for success, you're never going to make that choice with a low intelligence character. If you're optimizing for success, you're going to be like, well, I need to disengage because otherwise I'm going to get hit. But if you have a low intelligence character, you shouldn't really be disengaging. Particularly if you're really, really low intelligence. 8, you could probably get away with it. It's a little bit of a grey area. But if you've rolled for stats or whatever and you happen to have a really low intelligence character,
at that point,
in my view, I don't think anybody should really be disengaging at really low intelligence. But again, that's my taste, and I wouldn't want to impose that upon anybody. But these are the questions that I think players should be asking themselves. I agree,
and what I like to do, even if, well, Saga, for instance, she would be very good at strategy. Battlemaster. Obviously, she would be very good, but when we were fighting characters from her past, emotions come into play. Now it's going to be, we're going to have hate, revenge, all these kind of emotions which are going to affect the smart choice. And that, for me, is where the fun is. It's a lot more fun, especially story-wise, to have a revenge fight. They're not there going, well, actually, if I stand exactly 3 meters that away.
Right.
See, I think that's where passion would affect how your character acts, and people act erratically when it's personal.
Yeah.
So,
even
if they're strategically. So that's where the fun is. Because I think it's really fun to play someone who, moderate to high intelligence, who actually does something reckless.
Yeah.
From a character perspective, that's fun. Like, that's a different motivation to, say, a barbarian doing rage, which is going to be reckless because of the class feature.
Yeah, completely. And I think it's actually in some ways, even though I've played since 3rd edition, but I've ran more games with 5e than anything else, so I'm gonna come up against these friction points. But one of the things that has, since I ran a high level campaign, I was running Vecna Eve of Ruin from when it first came out, it really started to become very clear to me how meta a lot of the class features and things in the game are. And I do find that is the game really actively encourages meta thinking, and I think that's why metagaming to me is more of a problem in 5th edition than it has ever been, because the game looks at things so often in meta terms, and particularly in 5.5. My goodness. One of my pet peeves about 5.5 specifically is how often they will choose the mechanics in the game design over the narrative storytelling, to the point that so often it doesn't even make sense. And as a DM, as I've talked about already on this episode, part of our job as a DM is to take those numbers, take those mechanics, and make them make narrative sense. And sometimes I just look at it and I'm like,
Thanks.
I don't know.
Thanks, guys.
Like,
cheers.
I don't know. Good luck. And but yeah, it's going back to the class features. I think what is particularly hard is some of those things where it is like the only way you can make this make sense is looking at it from a meta level. And I struggle with that a lot. And it's particularly apparent at high level, I find.
That's true. It happened when, again, I'm going to reference Saga, but just because I found it so amusing, it's once we leveled up, you can get your Battle Master, you can get your, I can't remember what they're called.
Maneuvers?
Maneuvers, thank you. That was the word. Get your maneuvers. And, so now I can get lunging attack. So after 10 years of training, she's learned that stretching is a thing overnight. And that to me is now funny. That is funny. I'm going to make a joke and move on, fine. Like, that is we're just going to ignore it. At that point, I'm going to imagine off camera, she was doing it anyway, but now she's just better at it. But it is funny.
Yeah, now it's reached a bit like when you get people who learn a martial art like jiu-jitsu or something like that. And they might have been doing it years, but it's only when they get to a certain point that it becomes practical.
Exactly,
in terms of being able to of practical use. Might have been learning to lunge for a very long time, but finally now it is actually worthwhile attempting it on the battlefield.
Now I'm comfortable enough
against a moving opponent that isn't a training dummy.
Exactly. But it's that thing. So it's always going to have certain things like that with leveling up that are going to be clunky. But that's I think that's the players and the DM's job to go moving on. I've used it before. I like to imagine what the camera sees now. Like, we're suspending our disbelief. The camera's not looking there right now, unless we're looking at this. Okay?
Well, I think you say about players and DMs. I think whilst there's slightly different rules because, and if you're watching this, you might disagree, but whilst a DM has to trust a player to game. Or to try and limit as much metagaming as they can.
Yeah.
The player has to trust the DM the game for good.
Yeah.
Because being a DM, metagaming is part of the game.
Yes.
Because we're not just another player. We are also serving the story and serving the characters. I, as a DM, yes, I could just play the monsters and just go and do that, but I, as the DM, if I know that a player hasn't really got much of a foothold on the table at that game, you know, they might be feeling a little left out, that's metagaming. If I start throwing stuff their way to do it, but it's metagaming to improve the gamer enjoyment. In the same way that if someone has just been having the absolute worst luck and I have the choice, and they've nearly gone down 3 times, and they do have a fairly open choice between whether I hit them again or I hit the guy next to them that hasn't taken a hit the entire game. I might balance things out a little bit too, because I'm also there to make sure everyone's having a good time.
Because again, the DM is the entire world. You have to remember that. It's not just the monsters, not just the NPCs, it's the entire world. We call our home group, I think we've been playing the same campaign. Someone said 8 years because we had a session last weekend, and I was like, please stop, this is actively physically painful. 8 years. But yeah, we love it. We're very high level. We're gonna keep going. We started with Lost Minds of Fendelver years ago, and now it's homebrew. we call him God because in that world it is so, and that's also luck, and that's all those chance encounters, because it's everything, the butterfly effect. So it is.
Yeah.
But I think in both cases, whether you're looking at player or DM, as far as the metagaming is concerned, in what you were just saying, Callum, I think it ultimately comes down to, either way, there's metagaming, and then there's metagaming where you then take that knowledge and apply it in such a way that it makes narrative sense. Yeah. So I can think of an example in one of my games when one of my player characters was in a really bad way. They'd gone ahead into a room on their own. They're a very squishy wizard with a very low dex, like very low, because we were using random arrays rather than an array, so they had a very low dex. And they stumbled into a cave with a lion, and this lion was very hungry and pretty much took them down in the first go. Everybody else was like really far behind. Far behind enough that they're going, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, we're about to lose this guy. And I was like, I can't in all good conscience just rip this character to shreds. I should, but it's going to feel real bad for everyone. So I was basically like, well, the lion can see everybody else. So how I'm going to throw them a bone here is to use, I think it's got a roaring feature or something like that to scare the shit out of everyone. Instead of attacking, they're basically going to do that. Basically, they're laying claim to this body. This is theirs. Everybody back off.
Yeah, that's no longer a threat to them.
Right. Exactly. And so that's how they spent that turn, which everybody internalized, even though I didn't say it. Everybody internalized it correctly, which was, that was my warning shot. You've got one round. Solve this.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
then
Otherwise, then he's finished. Yeah. So think hard. But that made sense narratively. I was metagaming as a DM and fudging things, if you will, in order to give a little bit of plot armor to this character. But because I made it make narratives, nobody felt like it was cheesy or anything. Everybody was like, okay, yep, we get it, let's go. And I think that sort of stuff is fine. And I think if players can do that, it's fine as well. I think in the same way, and I know this is something that we've put on our lists, so I'm going to segue into this. I think in the same way, where you have those instances where you ask for a check, and your players look at their skills and they go, I've got a very good modifier on that skill, but if I use that ability, I can make that modifier really good. So can I swap that in that? And it's like, why that? And then the answer almost invariably is because my modifier is better.
You know.
Well, I have seen a lizard folk barbarian once who about as low a charisma as one can get. But I spoke with the DM and said, well, it's a frustrating one because I get advantage on intimidation, but I'm incredibly uncharismatic, so it feels like it's just damage control. But I feel that this character knows he can't get things with his words. Can I, for example, use an athletics check to bend something in front of them as a thing? And if you're making it make narrative sense, because this character would absolutely not use their words to try and intimidate people. In the same way you might have a character that doesn't particularly use words to persuade people. Right. You know, depending on what sort of campaign you're playing. So it is but it all comes down to, does it make narrative sense? Yes, you're that reason you don't want to get into that thing that happens quite a lot at the table. I'm still working out how to deal with it, where I'm like, right, I'm going to need someone to get a history check, and they go, right, who's got the best history score? You be the one to come and roll this one. To try and get that to happen at the table. Sure. I was trying to find
that is a hard one, which I come up against all the time. I do put a few guardrails in place to help this a little bit, but it also encourages it a little bit in some ways. Is I basically say, look, you guys get one shot at any check you're making. So pick the best person for the job. because you're not going to get another go unless you can find a way to change the situation. What that does, though, normally do is it does encourage that conversation of, well, I've got this bonus and I've got that bonus and this, that, and the other, which is quite a difficult thing to mitigate against, I suppose. And I don't know if I necessarily have a right answer to how to prevent that conversation from happening. But there will be certain situations where I will be like, well, no, you've declared this. Like knowledge checks, I'm almost never going to allow that to be passed around. Because you, the person, have gone, what do I know about this?
At that point, you've declared you...
it's like, what do I know? It's like, okay, well, you get the check. And I might say you're visibly, like, studying something. So that might trigger somebody to be like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to help them. And it's like, okay, well, then you could be having a kind of academic discussion about whatever it is that you're observing. And, this is this and this and that. That I'll allow. But with knowledge-based checks, generally, I'll be like, no, it is your knowledge check, aside from anybody coming to help you study. Whereas things that are more physical, where it's like somebody's... Or even if they're kind of like discussing in character, okay, somebody needs to pick this lock. At that point, I'll be like, okay, yeah, well, whoever... I'm perfectly happy for you to have that conversation at a meta level of like, well, okay, well, I'm obviously the best at doing it, so let me have a go.
Well, this reminds me of a really clever trick to stop the council in battle. The sort of, let's now have a 5-minute conversation before every single person's turn of what's happening, who's gonna hit what and who and whatever. I don't think it was in our home game. I don't think it was because of metagaming, but we were your classic moving dungeon. We were in battle and the walls started moving. You're running out of time, so they got what are they called?
Egg timer?
Not an egg timer.
Sand timer?
Sand timer, thank you. Hourglass. Suddenly, we don't have time. We don't have time to finish this discussion. We better do something. And it then becomes just do something. And also it's really fun. Especially when you've played a sort of very turn-based, let's battle lives of guards, to suddenly be like, so we have to get through this, or we're, paced.
One thing I do as a DM a lot with the battle conversation is I will just go, what do you do?
Yeah.
And I might allow a little bit of conferring, but after a short while I'll go, okay, so what are you doing?
Yeah.
And that tends to give the kick up a little bit to be like, okay, I need to make a choice. Or if they've taken an action and then they're still going, I'll go, okay, you got bonus action left, you got movement left. What are you doing?
I find in combat, particularly if it's the finale of a session kind of combat, because I run a lot of these one shots where you have your sort of big blow off battle at the end. As the combat goes on, my leniency for taking your time to decide what you're going to do on your turn naturally gets shorter and shorter.
Yeah. And
one of the things that this does is it builds tension.
Yeah.
Within there. So a fight might start off where they're going, okay. But also, by this point, you should be more dialed in as it goes on to what's going on and what's... And when it gets to the end, often this is born out of necessity.
Sure.
Because often we're at a board game cafe that is closing in half an hour, and this combat has been going on for an hour and 15 minutes, and we're on turn 3.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the monster's stat block and being like, making that any small. You guys might lose this.
Well, you definitely can't justify making it any smaller when the guy at the table's declared how many hit points he's got left.
Exactly.
It's like, sorry guys, we're just going to have to abandon this fight halfway through because somebody gave the numbers away. No finale for you.
Yeah.
Somebody's got most of a stat block written down there.
Yeah. And that's not to say that the numbers don't matter, because the numbers do matter. But if you start
Story trumps
employing that meta knowledge on that level, it really does hamstring the DM and prevent them from being able to optimize for the fun.
Yeah.
In those circumstances where you have got a hard time limit and it's, oh shit, this fight has got to be over in half an hour, whether we like it or not, to get a good ending on this. Yeah. The person that's tracking all of the hit points and everything like that is just making it impossible for the DM to deliver on that. And that's where that becomes a problem. Not so that the DM can just fudge and make it up as they go along or whatever, but the DM needs these tools to be able to adjust things to make sure that everybody's having fun and optimized for the fun. I was running a game last night for a corporate client, their team building thing, and I realized that we had some tech issues at the start, so that ate into a lot of our time. And I realized that the fight that they'd gotten themselves into, if we hadn't had those tech problems, would have been fine. But I was looking at it and I was like, oh boy, we are going to run out of time fast. And then somebody was like, hey, I've got some oil I want to throw at all these monsters. And I'm like, well, I know rules as written, you ain't going to cover a lot of monsters without a single flask of oil. But I was like, well, fuck it. I need you to kill these guys quick. And I'm like, okay, give me a roll. If you roll, then you'll cover X amount of monsters. If you roll not so well, you'll cover less of them. They actually rolled less well than I would have liked, but I was like, okay, cool. Well, you still cover most of them, but you still have to ignite the oil before it actually does anything. But it's those sorts of things that if you, and again, I know this is something else that we wanted to touch on, if you do run things too strict to the meta of the mechanics of the game, because you're optimizing for the mathematical problem, you hamstring your DM in his ability to then go into rule of cool.
Yes.
Because you then have the one person that then goes, well, actually, how this works is this, that, and the other. Now, I'll full disclosure, I run most of my games rules as written for the most part. And I do that because I run public games, and I want everybody to know that they've got a baseline that they can expect. But I think it has become a bit lost in... Again, I think partly because everybody knows the rules, because everybody can look everything up online. I think it's been lost that it is within DM's toolbox, and indeed it is the DM's right to change any rules they want at a moment's notice. There is no such thing as precedent in D&D. It's not a thing.
Court case.
No, it's not. If a DM makes a ruling in that moment, and then they later realize, oh shit, I broke my game, then they have every right to go, no, that's not the ruling anymore. I had a situation with a player where I said something in passing, and they took that and interpreted it their own way, this narrative thing that I had explained, that therefore, mechanically, this, and this must be true. And they went away. They're probably watching this video, so hey. But they went away and they made a plan. They spent hours on this mathematical plan, breaking down how their character was going to use their downtime to do all of these crazy things. And it was a cool plan. But my God, was it well overpowered. And it was well overpowered because they missed one detail with how I run games, which is... And they made an assumption based on the narrative, and they made a mechanical assumption, and they missed a really important detail, which threw their whole plan out. And they had spent a good couple of weeks. It was pages and pages and pages of maths homework of this is how I've solved this is how I've solved that, this is how I've solved this. And they had messaged me saying, I'm coming up with a plan, you're going to love it. And I'm like, just make sure that you are double checking that this is all above board. Throw questions at me if you need to, because I don't want you to waste your time. I got 2 lines into their plan and I was like, sorry, no, this doesn't work. Because if I allow this, I've completely broken the power economy of the game. Completely. And they were like, yeah, but you said this. And I was like, yeah, I did, but I didn't say it in the context of this. I said it in the context of something else. And they were like, oh, in fairness to them, I would have been pissed as well. They threw their toys out of the pram at me a little bit, and they've admitted as much. So I don't think they're gonna begrudge me saying it. But they threw their toys out of the pram, and I was like, yeah, but dude, you didn't. You took something in that moment and applied precedent to it without consulting me on it. And when you start metagaming on that level, that's where friction at the table comes so quick. because it's just because I said that in this instance they were learning spells, and they had asked months before, this place we're in, this has got an arcane library, right? I'm like, yes, it does. Cool. As me, narrative point. Yes, it has an arcane library. They'd gone away and they're like, right, so I'm spending all this time learning this spell, 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 and this spell. I was like, well, how do you know that these spells are in the library?
It's
He was
like,
like,
you didn't give them a library inventory.
yeah. I was like, how do you know these spells are in the library?
Yeah.
He's familiar as your character with the Dewey Decimal.
Yeah, and he was like, well, you said that it had lots of spells in here. I was like, yeah, and which spells? I didn't tell you which books they were in. You haven't accounted for the time that you're going to need to research all of these spells and stuff. Which, had you asked me, I would have told you, but you didn't. And it's those sorts of things which is where the meta and the same for shopping with magic items as well. Like, how does your character know that magic item, that rare magic item, exists? How many of those has your character encountered?
Flame tongues.
Right. And it's like
the magical
none.
platform of magical Google, which you order on.
But it's also a thing on like monsters and things like that. Say what I tend to do, like yourself, I will describe a creature rather than telling you what you're fighting, and then usually during the combat,
I'll let slip.
I let slip, or I get bored of describing it as this big fight. I'm like, guys, it's a troll. You know it's a troll. I know it's a troll. We've established all the things that it's a troll.
Yeah.
But just because you've met one troll doesn't mean you've met them all.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. How many times in Buffy the Vampire Slayer or something like that do they try a thing that has worked previously and it doesn't work?
Yeah.
Whether it be they stab, like Buffy the Vampire, they stab a vampire in the chest. Oh no. This one doesn't die that way, and what that creates, rather than watching that TV show and going, oh well, the rules of the TV show of the universe have gone out the window. Now I can no longer enjoy this program. It's a moment of something new, and I think that's the thing you have to engage is never feel like you completely know the world, because it isn't as rigid as a rule book.
Right.
100%. It is a living, breathing, and the world is full of secrets, and you do not know them all.
Right. And to me, that's the magic of the game.
Yeah,
that's the magic.
That's where all this. Not now.
That's all right. That's all right. It happens.
Yeah.
That's
the fun of the game is, but that's the moment in every film. You know, I'm gonna have. Why are they so persistent? Okay, excuse me.
But yeah, so one of the things that I've actually really started to look at on this basis of surprising my players, which I probably shouldn't be saying this on this show because it's going to give my game away. But
fingers in your ears, guys.
If you're in any of my games, turn off now. But no, to be fair, it's not revolutionary at all. It's something that we used to do in older editions all the time, but I feel like doesn't get done a lot in 5e. I've certainly not done it a lot, and I've not seen many DMs do it either. If you really want to surprise your players, give your monsters some magic items that they are using, and that will really throw them off the scent. Particularly if it's something like a potion. A potion is a great one because not only do you get to surprise them by them, but they get to see them drinking the potion, which then makes them go, shit, that was a magic item we could have had. So that's going to piss them off, one. But two, they don't necessarily know what that potion has done at this point, which gives you as a DM quite a lot of leeway on a lot of things, like giving resistances or immunities or changing stats around. And it's one of those things where it's like, on a meta level, I, the DM, have changed this monster, but I'm also making it narratively clear to you how I've changed the monster, why I've changed the monster. And now, this troll that you would expect to be vulnerable to fire now might be immune to fire. But we know why, because it's drank a potion, for example.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily have a troll drinking a potion, but you get the idea.
No. I love the image of any sort of creature. I mean, you have when you're facing like some evil knight or something like that, and they pull out a magic weapon, a big bad you expect maybe to have a magic weapon. But the idea that you're fighting like a spectre, a bandit or a spectre, and it pulls out a flaming sword, and you go, oh no!
Yeah,
a troll holding a greatsword like a dagger.
Right. Right.
blowing a great sword as a dagger. Because two things happen there. One, we do not know what this thing does now.
Right.
And two, we have to kill this thing because I want this whole thing.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
can see the loot it's
or
going
the
to drop.
famous thing of they have one massive weakness, like vampires, and they suddenly step into broad daylight, and you're like, oh no,
It's one of my favourite
are-
gotchas to do.
we
I
are
love
now,
it so much.
because then you know as a party you're at a disadvantage. That was your one kryptonite.
Right. But the other thing as well, though, is that signals to the players you can no longer assume anything.
Exactly.
You might have only changed that one thing, but now everything is in question. Because the one thing that you know for certain is no longer true. What else might not be true?
Yeah, I think it's keeping them on the toes, and it encourages them to say you're not going to get an advantage from if you're metagaming. If you're the worst type of metagamer, the one we agreed at the start, the person that's looking up specifically looking up stat blocks, it's going to discourage you from doing that because if anything, it's going to throw you off.
Yeah. It only has to happen a few times, that's the thing.
And make an example.
I think if you do have, and this is not in a kind of punish the players kind of way,
No.
but I think if you do have a player that is prone to those sorts of things, I think the more prone to those sorts of things they are and the more frequently they do it, the more important it is that in that moment where you do change something up that is expected, the bigger that moment is, the more it will land with that particular player, I think. Again, not to get in a I'm the DM swinging my dick around kind of way, but in just a way of like, no, don't expect the expected. Don't assume.
But I think also if you throw them off their normal rhythm of what they will do in a combat, it will get them to have to experience. So, for example, let's say we take the example of your troll drinking a healing potion or something, drinking some sort of healing potion. If you're the guy that is recording all of the hit points, he doesn't know how much he
healed. That's right.
So now the maths is off.
Yeah.
And now it's arbitrary kind of to continue doing that. So now they'll pay more attention to the rest of the stuff. Or, for example, you've been rolling. They think they've worked out what the armor class is, and this creature has suddenly starts getting plated with. It starts growing a bark-like skin, or you've got these little moments that will just not say to do it to stop them from doing this and doing it all the time, but like you say, having these moments that just forces them just for that little combat to just live and breathe in the world a little bit.
Yeah.
Or like in the same way, if you have a character who has taken a character inspired by one of D&D shorts videos. I love D&D shorts. I think he makes wonderful content. I think he seems like a really nice guy. But some of the videos are about making an incredibly broken character idea that does one thing and one tactic over and over and over again, which makes an incredibly dull experience for everybody else involved, and probably for yourself in the long run.
Also, can make it easy to overturn once you realize what that thing.
Because it's that thing of it's that thing of finding them out. So, say if you go, hey, I've built a character that has got 31 AC.
Well,
and it's cool. You better believe that I'm going to have a session at some point that's going to be using your dump stat for saves at some point, just so that you can feel peril for once.
Yeah, well, that's how it is in our home game, where my husband's rogue regularly rolls between 20 and 30 for stealth. It's have fun in the other dimension. That's what I always say to him. He doesn't exist for now. Fine. I will never forget the look.
Enjoy the true sight that's coming your way.
Right.
I'll never forget the look on his face when we ended up in some sort of arena that had just had sand. It's like, I'm gonna hide. The DM was like, where?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah. Suddenly he went like, oh no. My trick. I can't do my trick.
Well played to your DM. Well played.
I know. It's like
this is it, and this is where we are as DMs. We're metaing to try and serve the story.
Yeah.
100%. We're metaing to try and serve your enjoyment.
Yeah.
Because if you're off doing your power fantasy of just doing this one thing over and over again, or that, you're not experiencing the whole story. So our job is to throw challenges your way, and to throw opportunities your way. So yeah, let's say you've got that AC of 31. I'm going to put instances in where that means nothing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be doing it every turn. I'm not here to try and ruin what you've built. You want to have that experience where you're a human tank walking through. I will throw lots of creatures at you that are going to do absolutely nothing to you. You can feel that fantasy. But I'm also going to challenge you in the same way that if someone is playing a cleric, I'm going to chuck some undead at their way every now and again to watch them melt some some zombies and feel
100%.
like they weren't there to really hurt you. They were to make you feel you have a cool moment. And that is metaing because I know that you're a cleric. I know you have this ability.
And I think the players need to allow the DM to be able to do both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
It's
trust that I'm here for your good.
I was going to say
100%.
you do need to trust the DM to.
I'm a false antagonist.
It's they are more than the antagonist. They're the world, the platform, everything. That includes baddies, allies,
right,
everything. You know.
Yeah.
I'm your worst enemy and your brackets fade to black lover.
Exactly.
I am not...
Exactly. And the day.
Don't get any ideas. I'm everyone and everything.
Yeah, and luck itself. How lucky! It just happens that you found this sword on the floor. It just happens you met this person. Yeah. Trust that. And also, when everything's up against you in a fight, and you're panicking, and then you succeed, that is far better than
100%.
going in as a cleric going, zombies, don't mind me, sweep the field, bye-bye. What's more fun? Obviously, when you barely survive by the skin of your teeth.
You do need to have both, though, for sure. Yeah. You do definitely need to have both. Like, I do love when every now and then throwing an encounter a party which is like, I want you to cakewalk this. Yeah. Please, show off. But I want to make sure that at the same time, as often as I'm able to do that, I'm also able to be like, okay, good luck.
Yeah, balance.
But and I think this is where it comes down to what I said earlier. It's about being at singing off the same hymn sheet at the table, because there is nothing more tiresome as a DM than feeling like you have to get into an arms race with your players. It's tiresome. Because you want to be, as a DM, focusing on the story, you want to be focusing on the overall experience and curating a good experience. You don't want to be sat there with a spreadsheet trying to account for every single variable in this upcoming fight and making sure that you've got an answer for it. Not so that you can beat the players, but just so that you can give them the sense of dread.
Yeah.
If you have to put in that much work to get in to deliver a sense of dread, something feels like it's out of whack to me.
And there should be those peaks and troughs of success and failure, of feeling incredibly powerful and feeling powerless. Whether it be that the enemy that the boss that they're fighting that particular week has certain set resistances. So I didn't know what your spell list, what the wizard's spell list was going to be this week, and unfortunately you have picked a bunch of damage types that this thing does not give a crap about. Or whether it be that in my last game I had someone who was playing the new pugilist class, and they were playing a wrestler. And unfortunately, for the first half of it, they were fighting shadows who cannot be grappled.
Oh.
And so he's there going, oh no. Fortunately, there were some demons later on that he could slam around a little bit and actually start doing some stuff with. But for the first half, especially because it was the first combat, and he's excited to try out this new luchador, and he's suddenly there going, but then mate, oh no! But that's part. He didn't throw his toys out the pram and go, "Wow, this one hasn't been designed for me." In the same way, I've had parties when I'm running a game that isn't specifically designed for their setup. It's not. We're not deep into a homebrew campaign or anything there. They found a magic item that isn't particularly useful for any of them, and there's disappointment there. From the characters, they're like, oh no, the character should be just like, oh, I guess we could sell it, we'll get some gold or something. But a couple of players being like, well, why is that item?
So going
Yeah,
into a
see,
shop,
that bugs me.
and going, none of it is my size. Why does it exist?
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. I'm gonna do that. Have a shot where they find the magic item they want, the magic pair of boots, but they're not in their
Exactly,
size. Yes.
Because
I'm
that's
sorry.
essentially what you're
These are a
saying.
size 4.
You are going to get somebody go, well, actually, magic items change their size to fit the person. You will get that.
Your magic item.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, that shop exists on the other continent. Sorry.
I'll give you your boots of ridiculous speed or whatever it is. But unfortunately, they're 6 sizes too large for you, and so now they're going to clunk and clap around.
You can only wear one at a
this is
time,
what you-
like a...
There's a new rule for me. If a player comes to me and says that they're looking for a specific magic item that they as a player meta knowledge could know about, the character would, cool, you're going to get a version.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shopping for magic items and using player meta knowledge to determine a magic item that you want is one of my big gripes.
I always ask my players to if they when we're getting to the point where there might be magic item stuff, and sometimes if I let them know there's a session coming up where there'd be an opportunity to get, I ask them what is an aspect of their character's gameplay or something that they're looking to improve, get a little perk on. Because I often homebrew magic items anyway.
Yeah.
And I will give them something that's normally not what they're hoping for. Like one of them he literally said, I want a +1 rapier with something or other. I'm like, no. But you're looking for opportunities to get better hits and more damage. Cool. You'll get this this cool thing that's in there. Because it's not a catalogue.
Yeah, and so often the books are treated like catalogues for magic items, I find. That happens a lot, and it irks me. It irks me. But all my players know it irks me, but they do it anyway. We've only got...
you are fun to irk.
Yeah.
I am fun to irk, to be fair. I am, yes, my eldest will also agree. I am very fun to irk. My eye twitches and everything. But we've only got a couple of minutes left, really. And I know there's stuff that we haven't touched on.
Got plenty to touch on next.
So, yes, plenty more. Were there any sort of final thoughts that either of you guys had? I know we've talked quite a lot about optimizing, which is not necessarily what we intended to talk about, but I think it is part and parcel of the conversation of metagaming.
I guess I would just...
I think go ahead.
I think for me, my biggest pet peeve is you realise something integral in the plot as the player, and then you say that out loud, and your character doesn't have the evidence, or let's say 2 people were in a room discussing and they weren't in the room. That is my biggest pet peeve, when it's like a big, now we know why they're doing the big revelation of why something's happening on the big plot point, more so in longer campaigns. That is my biggest pet peeve, because it's like, I know it's perfectly fine for you to internally go, I got it, but you see everything on let's say the boards here. You see everything, you hear everything, your character doesn't, and that can be hard to separate. But you have to go, or you have to accept when the DM goes, you weren't in the room. How would you know? You have to accept that, and then go. You are playing a character. You are not playing.
Yes,
it's that.
I think that comes into if you have a piece of knowledge. We've discussed about people that are going out to find knowledge and things like that. That's a different thing. If you have a bit of knowledge, you have to ask yourself the same question twice: is, do I keep it to myself? And there's 2. I say you ask it to yourself twice, because the first question is, do I keep it to myself? Am I telling my character? Not as am I telling the others. Am I letting my character know this information?
Is my character going to make the realization?
Yeah, because does it serve? And it all comes down to, does it serve the story? Does it? It's not about winning. It does it serve the story? And does my character, if they know it, like, yes, they would share it. But as a player, should I be sharing this information with other people? Because is it spoilers?
Yeah.
Are you the person that has worked out what twist is coming in the movie?
Yeah.
Will you just go, oh, do you know what's going to happen? Actually, I think this is going to happen. And it spoils it.
It does. We have we
Yeah.
call it
Also,
the metagaming.
sometimes just try. Next time you feel that little urge, if you are the sort of person, because I know I feel it sometimes, to go, oh, I think that this is this. I think we're fighting this monster. Keep it to yourself and see how much you enjoy having that inside knowledge when it actually comes.
Right.
Because I had a while ago a player at the table realised, because they've obviously run into one in a previous campaign, that the creature I was describing was probably a rust monster. And the look they gave me, they were just playing, then went. By the way, they were playing a barbarian.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So then they're going, and you could see him working out, I could lose my axe here. But to his credit, he I can't quite remember, I don't think he did run straight. I think he threw a javelin at it or something like that. But he didn't out it. He didn't meta it too much. He maybe made a decision in himself, being like, what might my character do realistically that doesn't involve me embedding my favourite my favourite axe?
Which is fine. At that point, that's fine. Being like, do something your character would do. If you're like,
that's a healthy meta.
And I think one thing, because I'm running Out of the Abyss at the moment, and I've got a player that has run at least the first half of Out of the Abyss, and one of the things that he does, which I think is a really cool way of almost separating, putting a gap between you and your character, your meta knowledge and your character's knowledge, is he will often, because he's playing a low intelligence character as well, he's playing a barbarian, what he will often do is he will set himself a DC and be like, okay, here's my I'm going to roll a check. He won't talk to me about it, he'll just roll a dice, because it's his dialogue between him and himself, basically. He'll roll a dice and be like, okay, I think my character might either react to this or know this based on what I already know. Not necessarily on a knowledge check, but he might be like, okay, on a meta level, I know this. The optimal thing to do would be this. But is my character smart enough to know that that's optimal in this situation? So he'll roll the dice, and if it rolls low, which most of the time it does because he's a low intelligence character, he'll be like, okay, I'm going to do the stupid thing instead. And I really like that as a mechanism to talk yourself out of metagaming, which is a little tip.
When it comes to playing your character, if you want to use decision dice for yourself, that is your own, and you can set the rules for that. You can that is your little world. I have a player that does that quite a lot in terms of like trying to decide whether he thinks he would know something or thinks that he would. He loves, and also it's more opportunities to roll
some dice.
Yeah, I've definitely rolled.
You've paid enough for them.
Usually I'll be able to make a choice, but if I'm absolutely stumped, it will be rolling dice. Okay.
Yeah.
D6, 1 to 3s, yes. 4 to 6s, no. There you go, done.
And I do it in combat frequently as well. If I've got a monster and there's two targets, both of which make equal sense as to which one to attack, both tactically and narratively, I'll be like, okay, well, I'll let the dice decide.
I think for me, someone who overthinks everything, it just takes away the pressure to be like, did I make the right choice? There you go.
Yeah.
Dice
completely.
decided.
Completely. Yeah, so that's pretty much all we've got time for, unfortunately. We're running to the end of our time. But just to say, I think metagaming is fine, so long as it is in the interest of fun for the whole table. And the whole table.
I agree.
And that includes your DM too. And I think it is worth, to be honest, this is something that should be talked about in session 0 by your DM, in all honesty, and brought up to talk about whether or not, how much is too much and how much is too little, but also making sure that everybody at the table is singing from the same hymn sheet. You don't want to be the player that has metagamed so much that their character is way more powerful than everybody else, such that everybody else feels like your sidekick. It might be fun for you, but it's not fun for anybody else. And likewise, making sure that, you know, if you want a narrative-heavy table, that you're playing narrative-heavy, and likewise, if in fact, you are at a table full of wargamers that want the wargaming experience, that's fine too. We are all of that bias, as I said at the top, of more narrative storytelling. So this is all from the perspective of that. But either way is fine, provided that it's fine for everybody at the table. And that's really the key takeaway to all of this, is make sure that you're singing from the same hymn sheet, I would say. But yes, good discussion. Yes. Good discussion. We're going to do more of these. I was saying before we hit record that we've done a lot of playtest material stuff, which was not necessarily the intention behind this Bardic Quest talk show to be doing that every week. So I thought we'd change it up and just have a discussion conversation. So hopefully we'll do more of those. If you have any ideas for things that we'd like to discuss, of course, leave them in the comments, because I'm sure we've got plenty of thoughts on plenty of things. I know I certainly do. I'm a very opinionated man, as we all know. But yes, also, if you haven't done so, do hit the like button and the subscribe button as well, so that you never miss an episode. But that's going to be...
You're forgetting something, Wayne.
What's that,
it's
sorry?
Quite important,
Very important.
that we hype this thing up these days.
Hype the video too.
I've heard it. I've heard the kids say.
And also,
gotta give it the
our
hype.
actual play. Please do watch our actual play.
Yes,
as well.
we actually have 3 actual play shows, I suppose, technically available. We've got our original campaign, Lost Mine of Phandelver. We've got Defiance in Flan, our little mini-series, about 5 episodes of that. And we're also partway through our campaign 2, which is our homebrew setting, kind of low magic stuff. With lots of political intrigue in that one.
Lots to go on. Enough, not too much that you can catch up.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, we're only about 28 episodes into campaign 1, campaign 2, I think. So yeah, you could definitely catch up for sure. So check that out as well. So yes, that is it from us. Thank you for joining us, and we will catch you on the next one. Bye for now.
Bye.
Hoo-wee. I'm cutting this.